All right, guys. So I know there's a lot of confusion right now, at least there for sure was for me, on how to build green in BT5. There's just a lot of different options. They're all pretty good. So there's a lot of kind of like paralysis by analysis going on, especially for me. Over, you feel like if you're playing one good thing, you might be missing out on another good thing. So this is just going to be an overview for those of you who already know how to play green, and also for those of you who are new to the color, kind of explaining what the core concepts of the deck are, and I'm also going to go over a couple different builds. So let's just get straight into it. The core color concepts of green, you know how every color kind of has its own identity. Yellow has reduced DP and recovery. Red has plus security attack and card destruction and removal. Green has suspending or stunning your opponent's cards. And there's a couple different ways to do that. For example, the most common one you'll probably see right now is Needle Spray, or last format you saw a lot of Herc and Lilamon. And also the ability to ramp very quickly into their level 6s, which makes the deck feel really fast. And what I mean by ramp is that, for example, in a traditional deck, like right here, you'll see like a pretty standard Lord Nightmon stack. So obviously to digivolve into their rookie off of their baby, it costs 0 memory. Then 1 memory to go into Pidomon or Terurimon is their pretty standard opening line. Then it costs 3 memory to go into World Growlmon. So right there, they've already paid 4 memory. And then finally, to go into Lord Nightmon, they have to pay 3 memory again. So it's a total of 7 memory in order to finish their stack. And also along the way, they're going to pass the turn over to their opponent, especially right here in this Pidomon to World Growlmon. You have to pay 3 to digivolve into that. Especially in the opening turns of the game, you will very likely pass the turn over to your opponent unless you were lucky enough to already establish a memory retainer, but that's kind of besides the point. And then if we look at a standard green stack, it's again 0 to go from baby to Lalamon. I don't know why that's reversed, but okay. And then it's 1 to go from Lala into Weedmon. And then here is where we see the big difference. Because of the green Digisorption ability that we see on Blossomon and also the level 5 Argomon, which is limited to 1, you can digivolve into these guys for free, especially since they can tap themselves. For example, if you have a Weedmon that is unsuspended, you can suspend that stack and then digivolve the Blossomon on top of that same stack. So you don't necessarily need another Digimon on your board in order to Digisorb. You just need 1 unsuspended stack. So again, that costs 0, so it's still going to be your turn, and then you can go into your level 6 of choice. In this case, the most powerful one is Nidhogg because it has an immediate effect. So even though with 5 memory, you'll probably still pass a turn over to your opponent, at least you got your level 6 faster. You paid less memory because this only costs 6 as opposed to Lord Nightmon, he costs 7. And you gain 1 memory back from the Weedmon, so it would actually cost 5 in total for this whole stack. You get a very powerful effect, and it still gets to be your turn. Whereas right here, they will probably pass the turn over to their opponent. Right here, it's still your turn. So you're a turn faster on your level 6, and that's what makes green feel really fast, and it's probably the most powerful part about the deck. And again, there's a few key reasons to play green. Obviously, it's for that quick ramp and then into Nidhogg. Nidhogg is the most powerful card in green. It is the reason you should be playing green. If you're not playing at least 3 Nidhoggs in your green deck, you are for sure doing it wrong. Fix that immediately. This card is too good. You get too much value out of it. Decks have a really hard time playing around it, and if they do play around it, then you are probably in a winning position. Next is Mimi. Mimi is probably the best memory tamer in the game. I would say it might be tied with TK, and Davis is kind of up there too. But Mimi is one of the few memory tamers you can easily justify playing 3 of in your deck. The effect is if you have a level 5 or higher green, you can suspend it and bring out an egg from your hatching zone or hatch a new egg. So it lets you turbo through your deck. You can cheat out free attacks. If you have, 2 Mimis even, you can always get out an extra attack because things that move from raising to the playfield don't have summoning sickness, so they can attack right away. And finally, we have Hidden Potential Discovered, which again just lets you ramp even harder. You can play your Nidhogg for free instead of for 5. It's a really dumb card. also works on your Chaos Mons. So if you go from level 6 to level 7, your Chaos Mons only cost 1 instead of 6. Very good. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. And let's see. So that's pretty much just a quick overview on the color and why it is good. Let's see. Now I'm going to switch over to some of the cards that are good in your builds. Kind of just quick overview on all of them for your babies. Your main ones right now, green is very Digiburst focused build. So you're going to be seeing mostly Yokomons and Budmons. I recommend 4 Yokos and 1 Bud. The Budmon does come up. If you're not playing a Digiburst focused build, I think the only viable one right now is the GACHA green, I think it's called. I'll show an example build of that. It's more of a fun deck, but then you can make an argument for Argumon and Minomon. But for the most part in green, you're going to be running these two. For level 3s, the vanillas in green are especially good because they enable your Digisorption plays. So, for example, you can just hard play a Goblimon or an Argumon for 2, and then you can immediately suspend it and Digivolve a Blossomon. So instead of paying 3 for the Blossomon, you pay 2. That could help in some situations. Otherwise, obviously, you can just Digivolve the Blossomon on top of its own stack and bring it in suspended, but you don't always want to do that. So this is definitely an option. Terriermon, your opponent can't gain memory except with Tamer effects, so that stops Hammer Spark, it stops Blinding Ray, and it stops Jack Raid, which are probably your 3 biggest memory gaining effects that you'll be stopping with Terriermon. I think Terriermon has lost some value this format over last format just because in yellow especially, it is very easy for them to just kind of delete Terriermon. Like they just have to kind of sneeze and this card dies. So their Blinding Rays are going to be live if they want them to be live. You can kind of see it as that you're forcing them to use some of their DP reduction on the Terriermon, which could save one of your bigger guys. So in that sense, it's still probably worth the slaughter 2. Last format I was playing 3. This format I'm kind of leaning more towards 2. And then we have Lalamon. In Digiburst focused builds, this card is very good because it allows you to always see a rookie because anytime it's Digibursted, you just return it to your hand. You can make an argument that you only really need 1 Lalamon in your deck because as long as you see the 1, you can always recycle it and have it in your hand. I personally think that Lalamon is a card that you want to see early in the game, so that way later on you're not digging for another rookie. You can just be sure you always have it from the beginning of the game. I think 3 is the sweet spot. 4 might be a little too much. You can definitely get away with 2, and you can justify 1. So that depends on your playstyle. Then we have the new Palmon from Bt5. On deletion, trash, you can add a Palmon from your trash to the bottom of one of your Digivolution stacks, including itself. So if you like run into security with it, it dies, you can add that same Palmon to underneath one of your stacks. You can cheese out some Digibursts this way. I think the card is pretty situational. I've seen some builds run like 2 or 3 copies of it. You're welcome to try it out. You don't really need it. It's more of a cheese. Okay, then the other Palmon that sees a lot more play is the Promo Palmon. This one, when it's Digibursted, you give one of your stacks jamming. It doesn't have to be the card that Digibursted it. You can give it to anything on your board. This card is obviously super good. There's a reason it's like $25, $28. Besides the fact that it's a promo, it enables the OTK build. You don't need it. Like, you could get away with not running it in your OTK builds. I understand it's expensive, but it is definitely helpful. Yeah, if you're really committed to playing OTK, you probably need 4 of this. In other builds, you can kind of go without it. A Tentomon from the starter deck. On play, reveal top card of your deck, and then if it's a green Digimon, add it to your hand. It's pretty much your only draw power outside of Digivolving. It can whiff, and it feels really bad when it does. Like, let's say you bot deck a Mimi or your Hidden Potential, but again, it's your only card draw, and more often than not, it will hit. I recommend at least 3 or 4. Some builds don't run it at all because they just have really bad luck. That's up to your discretion. And finally, there's the starter deck Palmon. you can give the Digimon in the stack plus 2,000 when it does it have to attack an opponent's Digimon? Yeah, only when it attacks opponent's Digimon. It had a lot more value last format because you were swaying over things with Herc. This format, you're digibursting a lot more, so these inheritables don't really come up as much. You can still run it, and I think there's better options right now. Level 4s, green has really good level 4s. Vegemon is probably the best vanilla level 4 in the game because it's only 4 costs to hard drop. I recommend playing definitely at least 2. Most builds play 4, and I think 4 is really good. Then you have the standard blocker Woodmon, 2 cost to Digivolve. These 2 cost to Digivolve blockers have been overshadowed by the 1 cost to Digivolve blockers. I still think these are really good, especially when you're going second, because the standard opening play for most decks right now is Digivolve a rookie in the raising, and then Digivolve into a 1 cost level 4 in the raising, which passes you 1 memory. So in that way you can go, you Digivolve your own rookie for free, and you Digivolve into this for 2, passes over only 1 memory to them, and you're about on even tempo. Where as opposed to if this was a level 1, then you would be forced to hard play another card, and then you would be passing them over a lot more memory. So keep these cards in mind. They're also only 5 costs to drop if you have to get stuck, So that's always a good thing. Then we have Weedmon. This card's absolutely broken in green, especially in a Digiburst build. You have to play 4. Gaining the memory comes up so much. It's only 4 costs to hard play if you have to. Only 3 KDP is kind of bad, but you're not really leaving this card out, so definitely play 4 of this. 1 cost blocker Kabuterimon, pretty standard, play 3 or 4. And then Kabuterimon and Gargomon from BT, I think it's BT1, and this one's from BT3. They both do the same thing. They saw a lot more play last format, especially since you were keeping your inheritables. This format, you're digibursting a lot, you don't need these cards. Same thing with the Stingmon. These are all cards that I still see some people still playing because they were good last format, and right now I'd say they have pretty much no value, so don't play them. Finally, we have Roachmon. This card helps with bricks. I think Vegemon is a better card overall. If you want to play this, you can. I wouldn't take out Vegemon, Weedmon, or Kabuterimons for them, so just keep that in mind. Level 5s. Jagamon sees play only in the Gacha Green build. I'll talk about that when we get to that build. Argomon, limited to 1. It's basically just a 5th copy of Blossomon at this point. The inheritable very rarely comes up, again, because you're digibursting so much. But you might as well play it. Sometimes the inheritable does come up. Might as well. Cherrymon costs 2 to Digivolve, and it's a blocker. It's a fine card. I think Lilamon is better, but you definitely see builds running sometimes 2 or 3 copies. The 2 cost of Digivolve does come up sometimes, especially in your raising area. Blossomon is your free Digivolve. You have to play this card for sure. You want at least 3 Digisorptions at the minimum, so like 1 Argomon, 2 Blossomons. You can definitely max it out too. I think maxing out is too good. So you run 4 Blossomons, 5 Argos. Lilamon, this card is absolutely insane. Digiburst 2, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, and then the inheritable, which is actually really slept on, is whenever that card attacks, you suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. Play at least 2 of this card. You can definitely bump it up to 3 or 4. 4 is especially good if you run Takumi, which I will talk about later. Piximon, 2 cost to Digivolve. It's pretty much Cherrymon, except it has 1,000 more DP and it doesn't have blocker. The extra 1,000 DP can come up because it swings over all the other level 5s pretty much. But again, it's pretty much, do you want blocker or do you want 1,000 more DP if you're running between either of these 2. Mega Kabuterimon, again, this was better last format when you weren't digibursting as much and it was slower, so you can put it under Hercules. This format, there's just not enough room for it, unfortunately, and it's just a little too slow. I think most builds get away without playing it. Alright. Level 6s now, Mega Gargomon. This is a card that you play in the Gacha Green build. In other builds, it's too slow because it's 4 cost to Digivolve, and it doesn't play off the Digiburst mechanics. Bancho Stingmon is a pretty good tech, especially against Lord Nightmon, because they're pretty consistently over 12k, so you're going to get the 6k extra DP and the 3 security checks. I would not play more than 1, and even then, honestly, I don't think you need it. It's just a tech if you're feeling a little cheesy. Nidhoggmon is the best card in the deck. You absolutely need to play at least 3. You can also play 4. I'm leaning towards 4 right now, especially since more people are playing Rookie Rush, and Nidhogg slaps that deck. Rafflesimon, however you want to pronounce that. This is a new card in BT5. Digiburst 2, everything on your board gets plus 2000 attack, and then the second effect is whenever anything on your board Digibursts, you get to stun one of your opponent's cards, so it can't attack or block until the end of their turn. And the cool part about this card is that it can Digivolve on top of a level 6 for 1, so you can kind of cheese out an extra Digiburst, or put it on top of like a spent Nidhogg or something. Jury's kind of out on this card. Some people think it's really good. Some people think it's really meh. I think between this card and Herc, you can make an argument for either one. They kind of fill the same slot. I lean towards Herc personally, but there's nothing wrong with this card either. Just try it out and see how you like it. Grand Kuwagamon. This is pretty much the card that enables the OTK. So Digiburst 2 gives security attack plus 1 to anything. You combo this with the Palmon so you can get security plus 3 in jamming. And then you put a Chaosmon, the regular one, with piercing over it. And you slap for the entire enemy's security. And then you only just need to get one more attack off the following turn and you win the game. Pretty devastating combo. It's the whole reason the deck is good. If you're running OTK, you play 4. You can also play hybrid variations where you play 2 or 3. Again, Herc, Piercing, and Digiburst 2, you suspend a card on your opponent's side of the field. I still think this card is really good, especially because Lilamon and Weedmon lets you have 4 memory on your turn a lot more often than not, especially if you already have a Mimi set up. So what you can do is you bring out your Lilamon, you Digiburst Weedmon, so you go to 4 memory, and then you suspend something on their side of the board. You bring out Herc, then you go to 0. You can attack with Herc over the card you suspended with Lilamon, and then Lilamon Inheritable, you can suspend another card on their side of the field, and then you can use one of your other Digimon to attack over that. Really good combo. I still think Herc is a good card. People say it's too slow because it costs 4, but again, because of the Lilamon and Weedmon interaction, you can still play Herc and attack on your turn. Definitely keep that in mind. Next up, options. Hidden Potential discovered. Mandatory, you have to play the one. You're only allowed to play one. Between Flower Cannon and Needle Spray, right now a lot of people lean towards Needle Spray, and I tend to agree. They both have the same main effect. You just suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. The security effect is a little different. Flower Cannon, you suspend everything except cards with blocker. Needle Spray, you can suspend anything including blockers, and then you add it to your hand. I think you get more value out of Needle Spray right now. So if you're going to play it, play that one. Mimi, again, best tamer in the game. You play 2 or 3. I know there's some people out there who say 1 Mimi is fine. I think that's trolling, especially because you can get so many good combos when you have 2 Mimis on your board. And in order to keep pace up with some of the faster decks in the format, you have to see this card. I recommend playing 3. Izzy, Izumi, and Mimi Tachikawa Dual Tamer. Again, you only play this card in the Gacha Green deck. Otherwise, play 0. So if you're playing Gacha Green, you probably play 3 or 4 of this. If you're not playing that version of Green, you play 0. Just don't touch this card. It's a bait. Finally, this is a tech card that has been seeing some play in some green lists. I tried it myself recently, and I thought it was absolutely insane. Takumi, whenever you Digivolve, you can spend it to draw one. So it helps Green's weakness of not having card draw outside of Digivolving. So you kind of double down on getting those draws when you Digivolve, especially since you can Digivolve for free. You can get a lot of value out of Takumi. Helps you dig for those Nidhoggs or, that Digisorption that you're missing in order to clear the opponent's board. And the level 3 Digimon gain 1 attacking, lose 1 memory effect is fine. It does help in the Rookie Rush matchup a little bit. They can play around it, so it's not a huge deterrent, but it does slow them down. But the main cool thing about Takumi is that because running it means you're running extra tamers, your Lilamon Inheritable is more live, because Lilamon actually specifies that it can be any tamer. It doesn't have to be a green tamer. So if you have Takumi up, you can still get your Lilamon's Inheritables out, even if you don't have Mimi. I think that's a really, really strong interaction. So that's pretty much every relevant card in green. I'm going to go over some example builds really fast. Let's see. Here's an example green OTK build. So you want 3 Lalas, you need to run 4 Promo Palmons in this deck, 3 Tentos, Vanillas, and Terriermons. You can take out the Terriermons for more Vanillas, and I think that's fine. Level 4s, Veggie, Weedmon, Kabuterimon for 12 level 4s. Weedmon must play 4, Kabuterimon, you can split this with Woodmon if you want, and Vegiemons, you can split that with Woodmon if you want as well. Level 5s, you have your 3 Digizorpers, you have 3 Lilamons, and then you have 3 Piximons for the 2-costed Digivolve and Raising, because especially in Green OTK, you will probably be building your Grand Quagga and Raising more often than not, so you can't necessarily get the value off the Digizorp, which is something to keep in mind. Finally, 3 Nidhogg, you have to play 3 Nidhogg, at least 3, and 4 Grand Quagga, because that's the whole point of the deck. And then you can play 2 Chaos Mons. You might want to try 3 if you're not seeing the Chaos Mons enough, but in my practice, they can break a little bit. So 2 is fine, and you draw enough so that you'll see it. 1 HPD, 3 Mimis, and 2 Needle Sprays. These can be Takumis if you want. Alright. Then let's go. Here's the Reflationmon green control version of the deck that's seeing quite a bit of play right now. In this build, you Digiburst a lot more, so you can play 4 Lalas, and you don't need the Promo Palmons, so you have room to fit them in. 2 Terriers, 4 Tentos, 4 Gobblies. You can play around with these rookies. Level 4s, again, standard, 4 Veggie, 4 Weed, 4 Kabuteri. You can add in Woodmons if you want. Digizorpers, 3 Digizorpers, 3 Lilas, 3 Piximons, same idea as before. You could probably cut a Piximon and add a 4th Lilamon, and I think that's still pretty good. 3 Nidhoggs, you mandatory, 4 Reflasias, that's the whole point of the deck. And then for this one, you run Valderarm instead of the regular Chaosmon, because Reflasia doesn't kill things, it only stuns them, so your opponent's probably going to have some more things on the board, and that's where Valderarm comes in to finish them off. And again, 1 Hidden Potential, 2 Needle Sprays, 3 Mimis. I think you have to play Needle Spray in this deck because you have less ways of suspending things. Because you're playing, again, Reflasia who can't suspend. I wouldn't play Takumi in this one. Or maybe take out 1 Needle and add a Takumi. And I think that's probably still fine. And then we have the Hybrid Green. This is my personal favorite way to play the deck. So again, we have 4 Gobblies, 3 Terriers. You could cut this to 2 and then maybe add like a 4th Vanilla, maybe even a 4th or a 5th Vanilla or a 4th Lalamon. 4 Tentomons. Again, here, this is my personal build. So, for example, here's what I was saying about you can split the Woodmons and the Kabuterimons. So, 4 Weeds you have to, then 3 Kabuteris, 3 Woodmons, 2 Vegiemons. I think this is really good right now. Having the 2 extra blockers is very strong. Woodmon is good going second, and it's a good hard drop because it only costs 5. Here, I run the full Digizorp package, so all 5. I just think it's good in this particular version of the deck, and you don't need the 2 drops as much. The 2 costed Digivolve level 5, so Pixie or Cherrymon. 4 Lilamons. In this version of the deck, I do run the Takumi, so the Inheritable comes up a lot more. And also, again, it makes your Hercs live with Weedmon, and since I'm playing Herc in this version of the deck, I definitely want to see more Lilas to enable that play. 3 Nidhoggs mandatory. 2 Grand Quaggas. Grand Quagga is good in this version of the deck because you can put the +2 securities on Herc, and then Herc has piercing. So the big weakness of the regular OTK build is that Grand Quaggamon doesn't have piercing. So if they have a blocker, they can block your initial Grand Quagga hit, which pretty much deletes your whole OTK. You can't go for it anymore. So I think Herc really helps overcome that weakness. Of course, you do have to build 2 level 6 stacks, but in green, it's pretty feasible to do that, especially if you have a Mimi on the board. Chaosmon, again, because we can go for the OTK in this version, and also just the double piercing on top of Herc is very good. Hidden Potential, Mimi, and then the 1 Takumi. We don't need Needle Spray in this version of the deck because we have a lot of suspension from Herc and the Lilas. All right, and then the last version of green you can play is this Gacha green. This is the fun version of this deck. I don't know how competitively viable it is. It's pretty much a roulette deck. So I'm going to skip to the whole concept of the deck is this Jagamon effect. So you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you can Digivolve onto a level 6 that you hit among them for free. And then you can stack that with the Izzy, Uzumi, and Mimi Dual Tamer, which pretty much has the same exact effect. So you can dig 6 cards in your deck to hit a level 6. And then in this version of the deck, you play Mega Gargomon, because when you Digivolve it, you suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, and it doesn't unsuspend during their next turn. And then you get security +1 for each of your opponent's suspended Digimon. And also forcing their opponent's Digimon to stay suspended triggers the effect of your Izzy and Mimi. So you will get the extra memory when it passes over to your turn. It's a pretty good combination. And then you play a lot more level 6s in this deck because you are banking on hitting them for free off your combo. So basically, instead of playing level 7s, you just play more level 6s. And then just your one hidden potential because it's green and you have to play that card. Alright, so that's pretty much all the viable builds of green right now. If you're not sure which version you want to go towards, I definitely recommend this hybrid green build. It's going to be the cheapest version. You don't have to buy promo Palmons. It's still very good, and even if you wanted to play Rafflesia over Herc in this deck, you could. It would still be good. I like Herc. I'm still a Herc fan. I think Rafflesia just doesn't have enough removal to it. Whereas Herc, you can at least suspend something and beat over it, and I think that definitely comes up quite a bit. Plus, it has a 1k higher body, and it has piercing. So that will do it for this video. It's a full green overview. I'll post links to all the builds in the YouTube description, so that way you don't have to scroll through the video to try to copy the builds. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something about green.